Let me tell you a secret. Most men were never meant to be kings, and most of them never will be. They die like pawns, drifting through life, bending to the will of others, faking confidence, swallowing resentment, and calling it normal. But you're different, aren't you? You're not watching this by accident. You're here because something inside you knows. There's more, something deeper. A fire you haven't fully understood yet, but it's burning. And I need you to hear this, because if you don't, that fire, it will burn you alive. Or worse, it will fade, leaving you powerless, passive, broken. Just another man who could have been a king. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But what if I told you, most people never even get close? Because who you truly are isn't something you just find, it's something you must summon from the dark, from your chaos, from the fractured ruins of everything you've denied. There's a reason you feel that tension, the edge in your chest, that quiet, unshakable anger. It's not weakness, it's not madness, it's the buried king in you. And if you don't learn to face him, if you don't claim him, then someone else will use him against you. Every man carries two archetypes inside him, the tyrant and the weakling. One rules through chaos, control, fear. The other bows, apologizes, disappears, and the tragedy. Most men swing between the two. They dominate when they're insecure. They submit when they're unsure. They think power is about pretending, but it's not. True power is quiet, still, unshakable, and that's where the king comes in. The king isn't the loudest. He doesn't react. He doesn't beg. He decides. You don't look for approval, you decide. You don't ask for permission, you decide. You don't chase validation, you command it. But you can't just copy that mindset. You must go deeper. You must understand the psychology behind it. The first truth you must accept: power is not given. It is taken. Most people spend their lives waiting for someone to choose them, to validate them, to crown them. But kings don't wait. They create. They move. They command the narrative. This isn't about ego, it's about responsibility. You are responsible for your direction, your state, your impact. And if you keep outsourcing that to others, you are not a king. You are a slave. The world has lied to you. It told you to be agreeable, to be nice, to be patient. And now you wonder why you feel invisible. Why women don't respect you. Why bosses overlook you. Why people don't listen when you speak. Because they can feel it, that you haven't claimed your throne yet. But here's the darker truth. Even if you do rise, there's something that will try to destroy you from the inside. Jung called it the shadow. It's every part of yourself you've disowned. Your rage, your lust, your envy, your ambition. And the longer you ignore it, the more it controls you. You will sabotage relationships, destroy your health, compulsively chase things you don't even want. That's not a fluke. That's the Shadow King, ruling from the basement of your psyche. Every real king must descend into the underworld of himself, into his shadow, and when he returns, he doesn't come back as a nice guy. He comes back whole, integrated, dangerous, clear. That's the real reason why power seems so rare, because most people are too afraid to face themselves. You feel it now, don't you? That pull? That knowing? You've always known you were meant for more, not more applause, more responsibility. You don't want to be worshipped. You want to be trusted. You want to walk into a room and feel gravity bend around your presence. Not because you're pretending, but because you've done the inner work, and that's what separates a real king from a counterfeit. You want to know how to carry that kind of weight? How to lead without losing your soul? How to dominate without becoming a tyrant? Then keep watching. Because what I'm about to show you next is what most men never understand until it's already too late. You want the truth? Here it is. Your mind is not your own. Not yet. From the moment you were born, it's been colonized. By weak fathers. By distracted mothers. By schools that reward obedience. not strength. Be why a culture that worships comfort, not conquest. And every time you tried to rise, you were punished, laughed at, shamed, taught to hide the very thing that made you dangerous, your potential. But there's a paradox they never told you. You can't become a king until you learn to disobey. Not recklessly, not emotionally, but strategically. Because the world doesn't need more passive men. It needs sovereigns, men who can break away from the script, think for themselves, and lead with force and clarity when others collapse. And that begins with a ruthless discipline, learning to say no. You see, every king has a boundary that is sacred, non-negotiable. And it's not physical, it's psychological. Most people can't hold the line. They avoid conflict. They give in to guilt. They say yes when their soul is screaming no. Why? Because they still want to be liked, still want to be the good guy, still crave approval from a world that secretly despises strength. But here's what separates a sovereign mind. He knows that every yes is a throne being handed away. Every moment of weakness is a crack in the wall of his empire. Every time he bends, something inside him breaks. And it shows in your posture, in your tone, in your choices. If you want to think like a king, you must start by choosing what to refuse and to pointless distractions, to fake friendships, and to low expectations, and to anything that pulls you away from your path. This isn't about arrogance, it's about standards, it's about dominion, it's about waking up and knowing, I answer to something higher than approval. And that's what terrifies people. Because once you unlock that, once you can say no without guilt, without flinching, you become uncontrollable. They can't manipulate you with shame. They can't bribe you with comfort. They can't seduce you with praise, because your mind belongs to you now, and most people will never forgive you for that. That's the first real test of the king. Will you betray yourself to please the crowd, or will you stand alone and rise? And here's where it gets even darker. Even if you pass that test, there's still one more enemy waiting, the wounded boy inside you, the one who never felt seen, the one who was humiliated, the one who learned that power was bad, that masculinity was toxic, that ambition made you selfish. And make no mistake, that boy is still in you. And if you don't take him seriously, if you don't go back and claim him, he will sabotage everything you build. He'll make you chase validation instead of vision. He'll make you react like a child instead of ruling like a king. He'll convince you that love means weakness and strength means isolation. He'll smile in your success and whisper, you don't deserve this. You're still that scared little kid. And you'll believe him, unless you turn around and face him. That's what Jung meant by integration. The king isn't a mask. He's a union of the warrior and the lover, of the child and the father, of the rage and the reason. You can't suppress one side and expect to rule. You must descend into the fire, hold your pain like a crown, and walk through the battlefield of your own psyche. That's the price of self-mastery. But let me tell you something. When you do it, when you finally stop running and start remembering who you were before the world broke you, everything changes. Your eyes change. Your voice deepens. You stop apologizing for existing. You don't shrink when challenged. You don't beg for recognition. Because now, you see everything, and no one sees you the same. People feel I in the silence between your words, I in the weight behind your presence, I in the calm when others panic. Because when a man has walked through his own hell, he doesn't flinch at the chaos of the world, that he understands it, that he's been forged by it. He's no longer at war with himself, he has become the kingdom. And the king. So let me ask you, what are you still afraid of? Being alone. You already are, deep down. You were born alone, that you'll die alone. The question is, will you live alone, in your truth, or will you live among the dead, smiling, nodding, fitting in, while your soul rots from the inside out? You already know the answer. You've always known. But knowing isn't enough anymore. You have to choose, and I don't mean once, I mean every single day, when your voice shakes, when your hands tremble, when your shadow whispers, when the world doubts you, you choose to rise. You choose to lead. You choose to embody the man you were born to become. And yes, you will lose people. You will walk alone at times. You will bleed. But what you gain in return is a throne no one can take. Not by words, not by force, not even by death. The king is not a fantasy, he's real. And he's waiting for you. But he won't come to you gently, he will test you. Break you. Burn you. So you can rise. Not as a boy. Not as a tyrant. But as a man who finally knows who he is. Keep going. There's one more layer. And once you understand it, there's no turning back. You've come this far, so let's strip away the final illusion. The one that binds even the most disciplined men. The belief that you must be perfect to lead. That you must wait to be more healed, more ready, more enlightened. It's a lie. Kings do not ascend thrones because they are flawless. They ascend because they accept the burden. Even when they're afraid. Even when they're doubted. Even when every demon inside them screams they are unworthy. That's the final gate. The one few ever walk through, because it demands that you lead while still bleeding. You see, the modern world has made leadership soft. They tell you it's about being liked, about being agreeable, sensitive, well-rounded. But in Jungian psychology, the king archetype is not soft. He is ruthless in clarity, fierce in judgment, tender in truth. Not because he learned it in a book, but because he carved it from the darkness of his own suffering. And here's what that suffering teaches him. Real leadership begins the moment you take full responsibility for your state, your past, your future. Even the parts that were never your fault. You didn't choose your trauma, but it's yours. Now, you didn't choose your enemies, but they will still sharpen you. You didn't choose the family you were born into, but it is the soil from which your roots must grow. Responsibility is not the same as blame. Its power. It means you're done waiting for someone to fix you. It means you stop outsourcing your fate to therapists, teachers, women, followers. You sit on the throne and say, it's mine now. My pain. My legacy. My destiny. That's what terrifies the world. Because once you do that, you become ungovernable, not reckless, unshakable. You stop reacting. You start building. You don't fight every critic. You outlast them. You don't need every woman. You attract the right one by presence alone. You don't yell for respect. Your aura demands it. Because you're not trying anymore, you've become the source. And once that happens, everything changes. You stop begging the world to hand you peace and start cultivating it inside your mind like sacred ground. You stop chasing money to feel powerful and start building wealth from a place of sovereignty. You stop needing others to believe in you because your actions now speak with divine violence. You stop playing defense and start moving like a strategist because now you see the board clearly, not from fear, not from anger, but from vision. And that's the hidden trait of every true king. He does not live moment to moment. He lives generationally. He's not thinking about today's dopamine hit. He's thinking 10 moves ahead. 10 years ahead. He builds for a bloodline, for a kingdom, for a name that will echo through time. Tell me, have you ever felt that? That pull to do something that would outlive you? Not to be famous, not to be envied, but to be felt. Across generations. To leave behind a map. A blueprint. A signal fire for those who would come after. That's the real king's purpose. Not just to rule, but to ignite. To become the man that others didn't have. To break the cycle. To go first. To die with nothing left undone, unsaid, unlived. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens through self-conquest. And this is what makes the final transformation inevitable. You stop seeing others as competition, because now you are your only rival. You wake up every morning, look yourself in the eyes, and say, prove it. Prove that you're not your past. Prove that you won't run this time. Prove that your word is law. Prove that every step you take is one of deliberate power. You stop blaming, you stop gossiping, you stop scrolling and watching others win. You build. Every word you speak is forged in silence. Every step you take is rooted in purpose. Every boundary you hold is a kingdom wall. Every day you live becomes a sermon to the younger version of you who's still watching. And yes, you'll still feel the shadow. You'll still face temptation, doubt, fatigue. But now you have something stronger, a code. A quiet, unbreakable standard. The one no one can see. The one you never lower even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. And that is when you become untouchable. Not because the world won't test you, but because nothing outside of you can move what's rooted within. That's the psychology of the king. Not a fantasy. Not a throne made of gold, but an inner citadel forged in blood, fire, and stillness. A man who owns his mind, his shadow, his purpose. A man who doesn't need to raise his voice because his presence does the talking. And the moment you step into that, the world responds. Women see you differently. Men respect you even if they don't understand why. Opportunities align. Chaos parts. Time bends. Not because you manipulated it, but because you've finally become worthy of it. That's the moment you stop chasing your future and start pulling it toward you. You are no longer the prey. You are now the strategist. You are the fire, the silence, the storm. So now I'll ask you again. Are you ready to lead? Because the final part, that's where everything converges. Your story, your pain, your ascension, your power. But only if you're willing to walk through the last door. You've heard the call, you've walked through the fire. Now, the final truth waits. Not a slogan, not a technique, but the revelation that changes everything. You were never meant to be normal. That was the curse. From the beginning, you knew. You felt it. That ache in your chest. That whisper behind the noise. That something in this world was off. That what they fed you was too small, too safe, too hollow. You saw people live in quiet resignation, smiling while dying, numbing themselves with screens, lies, and soft addictions, and part of you refused. But the cost of that refusal was exile. You've always been different. Too intense, too driven, too much. And they tried to beat it out of you, not with fists, but with silence, indifference, labels. They told you to fit in. Shrink. Compromise. Smile more. Stop being so serious. But you weren't serious. You were awakening. The king was already stirring beneath your skin, and the world, terrified of that fire, did what it always does. It tried to put it out. But here's the secret they never wanted you to know. You don't need their permission. Think like a king. Move with vision. Dominate your fate. You don't need applause. You don't need consensus. You don't even need belief. You only need truth. And here it is. The world is ruled by men who were once broken, but refused to stay that way. Men who were beaten, but learned how to bleed with purpose. Men who lost everything, but returned with something deeper. A mission. A code. A kingdom inside them no one could ever take. So let me speak to that part of you now. The one that knows this message isn't entertainment. It's a mirror. A reflection of what you've always known. You were built to build. You were made to master. You were born to lead, not just others, but yourself. Your mind, your emotions, your shadow. Walk into the jungle of your own psyche and come out carrying order. That's what Jung meant when he spoke of the archetypal king. Not a man who avoids the dragon, but the man who walks into its cave and emerges with the gold of self-knowledge. The man who stops living for survival and starts living for legacy. So this is your invitation. Not to fake it. Not to pretend. Not to perform masculinity like a mask, but to become it. Stop watching others rise and start choosing. Choosing discipline over comfort. Choosing vision over validation. Choosing the pain that forges over the ease that decays. And when that choice becomes a lifestyle, something strange happens. You don't just attract power. You start radiating it. People follow you without knowing why. Not because you demand it, but because you've become the man they're trying to remember. The one they were told didn't exist, grounded, clear, dangerous, but controlled, humble, but unshakable. A king. And now you don't flinch. You don't chase. You don't explain. You build. You speak. You command. Not from ego. From essence. That's when your enemies fear you. Not because you roar, but because you don't have to. That's when your friends trust you. Not because you say the right words, but because your life proves them. That's when your legacy begins. Not when the world crowns you, but when you crown yourself. And if no one claps, you don't care. Because the king doesn't need a stage. He doesn't need an audience. He walks with thunder in his chest and a storm behind his eyes. He knows who he is. And now you do too. So choose your next words wisely. What you say after this video will either affirm your throne or abandon it. Will you scroll again? Distract yourself? Hide? Or will you stand up, breathe in the fire, and finally say the words that change everything? I'm done waiting. The crown is mine. Now I rise. If you felt this, like, comment, subscribe. Not for me, but to mark this moment, the moment you stopped pretending, the moment you remembered. Because this wasn't just a video. This was a summoning. And the world hasn't seen what you're about to become. So go. Build the kingdom. Be the storm. And never bow again. Your throne is waiting.